Hello, my name is Myra. Welcome to another video. So for today's video, I wanted to go ahead and talk about my June TBR as well as some June new releases that are on my radar. I, of course, will probably not get to read all of these books since life happens and I do have a few things coming up this month, so we're gonna try our best. It's okay. Now I will say though, my June TBR is more focused on a book signing that I'm going to in August. I'm so excited to go. It's actually gonna be my first like big book signing that I've ever been to. So many good authors are gonna be there. So many authors whose work that I love are gonna be there. So I'm very excited, but I really wanna focus June and July and pretty much all of August to try to read as many of these authors that are on this list as possible, with a special emphasis on smaller authors and maybe authors that I hadn't really heard of or that are not as well known. A lot of the authors that are on my list though are pretty well known. So there is some here that are household names, you can say, and then there is some of them that are not. But again, I'm gonna continue. I already have a few holds on like Libby for other authors who are smaller or maybe not as well known. So the first book that I have on my list here is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I actually own this book. It's in my room. I didn't grab it, so I'll just pop a picture here. But basically this book has to do with a heroine who inherits an apartment from her aunt. And she ends up finding out that she has a roommate, but this roommate is 7 years in the past. So she is literally 7 years in the future. He's 7 years in the past. And somehow they're able to be together in the apartment. So again, I haven't read it obviously, so I don't really know how it works, but I've heard really good things about it. I've owned it for a few months. So I kind of am tackling also like a physical TBR, you know, thing that I have going on. So yeah, we love that. I'm excited to read it. The next one here that I have on my list is Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. All I know is that the hero and heroine knew each other back in college, and it's been like 10 years now, or at least 10 years since they last saw each other, and they're kind of like hooking up and having fun, and he's post breakup, so he's not really looking for anything serious, but he finds that the heroine is like a breath of fresh air. So I have a feeling these two are gonna fall for each other. It's actually available on the Libby app already, so I'm gonna be listening to this book. The next one here is The Doctor by Nikki Sloan. Nikki Sloan is one of those authors that I've had on my TBR for so long. This book, The Doctor, is the first one in her Nashville Neighborhood series. I believe that's what it's called. All I know about this one is clearly he's a doctor and she's been crushing on him for a while, but he's her ex-boyfriend's dad. We're here for the mess. We're here for the mess. The next book that I have here on my list is Credence by Penelope Douglas. I have heard it all. I've heard of people who love it, people who are questioning why they read it and what that says about them, about the fact that they read it. I don't care. I want to form my own opinion. If you have not heard of Credence though, it's basically a young woman. She is 18, I believe, whose parents, I think, pass away. And so she ends up going to live with her step uncle, no blood relation. He's just like her step uncle. She's never met him, nothing like that. And he happens to live in like a cabin in the middle of nowhere. And when she goes up to live with him, also it's on a mountain. So anyway, when she goes up to live with him, he like ends up introducing her to her two sons, or to his two sons. And again, none of them are related to her by blood or anything, and they've never known each other. And there's like this huge winter storm, and then all four of them are stranded, and she ends up having a relationship with all three. No blood relation, they don't know each other. And I think she picks, I have heard that she does pick one person in the end, but I don't think there's like, you know, like all four of them together. Like I think it's like one at a time. I don't know, we'll see. I'll find out. I'm thinking about kind of vlogging it because I think it might be fun to just kind of see my reactions, but I also suck at vlogging, so I don't know. We'll see, but I'm very interested to read it once and for all. The next one here that I have is Wanting Mr. Kane by Shanora Williams. So in this one, you have a heroine who has always had a crush on the hero, and basically that like young girl crush develops, and even when she's older she can't help but be attracted to him. There is a pretty big age gap here though, because he is her dad's best friend. So this is like best friend's daughter. Apparently though, like obviously she's legal. I am very interested to see exactly what the age gap is gonna be. That can make or break the book. Next on my list, I have Sinner by Sierra Simone. I actually listened to Priest by Sierra Simone. I think it might have been either at the beginning of this year or sometime last year. Not my favorite, I'm not gonna lie. Nothing to do with her writing or anything, but it felt very insta-lovey for me. And if you've read Priest, it's like, he's a priest. I mean, it's in the title, right? So he's a priest, and for me, it's like, you would think that like, it wouldn't be that easy to break your vow. And if you know anything about Catholicism and stuff, like that's like the biggest thing, right? Like priests are not supposed to get married. So to me, it just, I don't know. I was like, I want a little more angst and a little more like it should have taken him a while to even consider breaking his vow. Like, I don't know. I felt too insta-lovey. Insta-lovey is one of the tropes that, no thank you. Like if I start reading a book and it's insta-love, insta-attraction, bye. Well, actually no. Insta-attraction is okay. Because obviously like that happens with humans too. Like if I'm walking down the street, if I see an attractive guy, like my brain is gonna know this guy is attractive. Now I'm in a relationship and I'm loyal, so I'm not gonna act on it. But my brain tells me like, that's an attractive human being. So I get that. But when it's like, oh my God, I can't eat, I can't sleep. Like I love this person. It's like, you just met them like 30 seconds ago. You need to calm down. So in this one, all I know is that the heroine is going to become a nun. However, before she becomes a nun, she wants to have all the experiences of like a regular woman. And she ends up enlisting, I believe, her brother's best friend's help. Is she gonna become a nun? I don't know. I kind of doubt it, you know, just going on context clues here, but we're gonna find out. The next one here that I have is Taken to Viraxia by Elizabeth Stevens. Elizabeth Stevens, another author that's gonna be there. She writes like Omegaverse and stuff too. I've seen a bunch of her stuff on Instagram. She's so adorable. And this one, it's an alien romance. So it is interracial, literally, because it's humans and aliens. And if you've seen any of my past videos, I love the Planet of the Barbarian series. It's a series that I love picking up a book or two throughout every month, especially after like a very heavy read or after I finish a series, just to kind of like reset my palette. But in this one, you have humans and aliens, and it looks like the aliens come to Earth every like 3 or so years, and they take like the most attractive women back with them. What they're doing with them, I don't know. I'll find out once I read it. But this girl, she is, well, woman. This woman, she is a like half human, half alien hybrid. And one of like the, basically like the kings of this planet is like intrigued and attracted to her and is like, I'm gonna come back for you. And she doesn't know why. She's like, why do you even want me? Like, I don't understand. Like, why do you want to take me? And it turns out there's like a fated mates type of thing. And he's trying to convince her like, like you're gonna live a great life, like you're gonna be the queen, but obviously she doesn't want to. So it's like enemies to lovers, space, aliens, Earth, humans. I don't know. Sounds like a good time. Very excited to read it. And then last but not least on my TBR, I have Hidden Justice by Diana Munoz Stewart. This one sounds so interesting. So you have a heroine who is adopted into this very loving family, and it turns out that they are all international spies. And so she ends up basically training and growing up to become a spy. Her cover is blown somehow, and so she ends up needing like a new cover, and she ends up working with this like humanitarian organization as like a PR person. But as she's spending all this time in this organization and with all these people, she ends up getting attracted to and kind of falling for the head of the organization, who used to be in like the armed forces, and he knows that there's something about her that he doesn't know, and he's very curious, but he obviously has no clue that she's a spy. So this just sounds so fun. I loved Spy Kids growing up. I used to watch that movie all the time. I even watched one of like the newer versions that came out on Netflix not that long ago. It sounds like a good time. So anyway, those are the ones that are my TBR. Like, these are the ones that I have here on my list so that I can look at them and be like, no, remember, stay focused, because you need to be ready for this book signing. So next I have my new releases. These I also am focusing on authors that are going to be at this book signing, so you might see a little bit of crossover with the authors, except for one of them. Actually, one of them was not on that list, but the rest of them are pretty much on that list. So the first one here I have is Pardon My Frenchie by Farah Rocon. All I know about this one is that the heroine has a successful dog boarding business, and she ends up having like her eye on this building so that she can expand her business. But this really grumpy guy who's not really a dog lover, which I'm offended, ends up buying it. But he has an aunt that has like a dog, and it's a very troublesome dog, and she offers to take care of the dog because she's kind of trying to get on his good graces so that she can hopefully like lease this building from him to expand her business. And it turns out that at her like dog boarding place, she has like a live stream, and her dog and his aunt's dog end up hitting it off, you know, like dogs do sometimes. And I guess a clip of them goes viral of them eating this like treat or something, and it's like Lady and the Tramp style, if you've seen the Disney movie. And it basically forces him and her, like, which are the owners of these dogs, to spend time together. And as they're spending time together, there's some attraction going on. Broken Beginnings by Cleo Evans. I have read one book by Cleo Evans before. I read it like 80% of the way, and then I just kind of skimmed the rest, and then I stopped skimming it because I just wasn't interested. It was a monster romance. It was just a little bit too much smut, and I'm all for smut, but I wasn't interested. Like I completely lost interest in the book. But this one sounds very interesting. So you have a small town, right? And this heroine accidentally witnesses a murder, okay? Witnesses a murder. He's like this masked person, so obviously she doesn't know who did it, and she moves to this town. For XYZ reason, she ends up having to come back to this small town, and a lot of the people have changed, namely her ex like high school bully, who's now like attracted to her and wants to spend time with her and get to know her, blah blah blah. As they're hitting it off though, things start to happen, and she basically is feeling like whoever this murderer was, that obviously knows that she saw him or her murdering whoever it is that they murdered, is coming after her. And so she knows like, okay, this murderer is coming after me because they know that I was a witness and I don't know who they are. And so that's where like the suspense comes in. It sounds so interesting. So I'm very excited to read that one. And then I have Ocean of Sin and Starlight by Karina Halley. All I know, and I have it here, is that it's a dark fantasy romance. It does have pirates and monsters. And I did see that she recommends that you can read it as a standalone, but she has a book right before it called A Ship of Bones and Teeth. So she did say if you want to read that book also, like if it's on your radar, then read that one first before you read this new one. But if not, read this one. But pirates, monsters, sounds like a good time. And honestly, I love Karina Halley too, so I'm all for it. Then I have another author that I really like, and this one is Ali Hazelwood, and her book is called Not in Love. So this one, I know it's a no strings attached romance. She is like bioengineer, something like that, and her company is basically being threatened to be taken over, and she hits it off with one of the guys that's there to take over this company, and they form like this no strings attached, just for fun, adult consensual relationship. And they're basically planning on ending it once they figure out what the deal is gonna be, if that company is gonna take over her company or not. But I have a feeling they're gonna catch feelings. We'll see. Next I have Director's Cut by Carolyn Greenwald. This is an FF romance, so female romance. One of the heroines used to be an actress. She wanted to be a director, but it accidentally or pretty much flopped. And she ends up deciding that instead she wants to go and be a professor. I think she still wants to teach in like the filming world. And so she goes on to basically learn and try to become a professor, except that the professor that she meets, she is not impressed by this ex-actress turned director turned professor. And so she's basically throwing her like hard jobs that she thinks she's gonna fail at, and she's succeeding in them. However, at one point, like obviously as she's saying that she's succeeding, she sees like, okay, maybe there's more to her and maybe I judged her too harshly. But then the film that she had made starts to kind of take off. And so now Hollywood is kind of calling her back, and now she has to decide, okay, do I go back to Hollywood and try to like pursue being a director? Or now that I am falling in love with becoming a professor, do I just do that? And also in the mix is this other professor who she, like, both of these heroines have clicked. So she kind of has a tough choice to make. Curvy Girl Summer by Danielle Allen. So this one, it looks like it's like a funny, lighthearted romance book. It follows a heroine who is basically living through the struggles of online dating, catfishing, people ghosting you, etc. And it looks like she's kind of going on this quest to try to find someone, or to try to like actually find a decent person that she can date. And it looks like while she's on this quest, she ends up finding love in the place that she least expects it. So I think it's going to be one of those books where it's like, it's probably somebody that she interacts with all the time, somebody that she's herself with all the time, who ends up being the one that she falls for. That's just my guess. We'll see. Cut by Sierra Simone. This is a second book in a series by her, and all it said on this one, because the blurb was not fully out, is that she falls in love with the devil and his bodyguard, and then they fall in love with her too. I don't think it's the actual devil, just for the record. I know that they use this term a lot for mafia, so if this is like a mafia romance or like a mafia series, it looks like there's gonna be like a kind of White Shoes mafia romance. Not Safe for Work by Lindsay Lanza. So in this one, it looks like she's working with these, like, it's like a male dominated corporate world that she's working at, and her boss is horrible and probably belittles her because she's a woman. Been there. But anyway, on this one, I really like the blurb because it said it's about discovering your place in a world that is working against you and to finding love where you least expect it. And it looks like one of the guys that is like her coworker has always had feelings for her, and they seem to be forced to work together on something. I think he like jumps in to try to like help her and like basically help her be able to have the spotlight that she deserves, because she kind of gets that light diminished simply because she's a woman in the corporate world. So I don't know, it sounds a little like too realistic if I'm being honest, because like corporate world and all these things, but it also, I can see the potential of it being a very empowering story. So I'm very curious to read that one. A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. I am so excited for this book. I know I haven't read anything by her, but I've heard great things about the 7-Year Slip. And with this one, let me just tell you, okay? Have you watched the show Once Upon a Time? If you haven't, please watch it. If you love Disney, I can't believe that you haven't watched it. Anyway, this one gave me that show's vibes. So in A Novel Love Story, you have this heroine who, I believe she's on a road trip. Her car ends up breaking down and she's in like this small town, but she ends up finding out that this small town that she's in is frozen. Like it's frozen in time. And she starts to kind of put the context clues together, and it's the setting for one of her favorite novels. Like, imagine, like, when I read that, I just imagined myself being in like the ACOTAR series, because I love ACOTAR, and like just imagining myself being like in Valaris. I was like, where do I sign up? Like, I want to be in a fairy tale. What are you talking about? So anyway, she ends up finding out that she's stuck in her favorite novel. And she's thinking, because this author has now passed away, or has since passed away, so she's thinking, okay, maybe I'm here and I'm stuck in this town because I'm supposed to finish the story for this author who passed away before they had a chance to. Except this handsome stranger that she meets doesn't want her to do that, and doesn't want her to like write and continue the story. Why? We don't know, but we will be finding out. I want to read this book so bad. Watch me like somehow manage to get stuck in Valaris. I don't know. Anyway, A Girl Can Dream. Tangled Up in You by Christina Lauren. This one is another favorite of mine. I love Tangled. Love it. The cartoon, yes. I love it. I think it's so cute. So wholesome. Flynn Rider is so cute. As cute as a cartoon can be. Does that make me weird? Probably. But I'm being honest. So this one basically seems to be like a Tangled retelling. This heroine for some reason was secluded and ends up running into this ex-bad boy because he had like a criminal record, and they're somehow forced to go on a road trip together. It sounds adorable. It sounds wholesome. Last but not least, I have Filthy Rich Fae by Geneva Lee. I've read some of her vampire books, and this one has to do with fae, and I literally just talked about ACOTAR, so hello. I love fae. This one, it looks like the heroine is forced to make a deal with a fae prince who is pretty much like dark, dangerous, and she only offers to do it or is considering doing it because of her brother. It seems like her brother is in some sort of trouble, and her, being the great sister that she is stepping in to try to make a deal with this fae. He wants her to be like bound to him. She doesn't know why. I don't know why. We're gonna find out why. But anyway, with all that said and done, this is my June TBR and the new releases. These new releases are also part of my TBR, but I've been reading, I think, like 8 or 9 books a month. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video.